The morning sun cast long shadows across the Norfolk Naval Base as Sarah Martinez adjusted her Kevlar vest one final time. 28 years old, with sharp hazel eyes that missed nothing and calloused hands that spoke of countless hours at the shooting range, she looked like any other military contractor heading to work. What the men around her didn't know was that Sarah had been living a carefully constructed lie for the past 18 months. Her real name was Sarah Chen Martinez, and she was a former Delta Force operative who had supposedly died in a classified operation in Syria 3 years ago. The military had staged her death to give her a new identity, a chance at a normal life after she had uncovered corruption that went straight to the Pentagon. But normal had never suited Sarah, and when her handler contacted her 6 months ago about suspicious activities at Norfolk, she couldn't resist one last mission. The briefing room buzzed with testosterone and nervous energy as 301 Navy SEALs prepared for what their commanding officers had told them was a routine training exercise. Sarah sat in the back corner, her laptop bag containing equipment that could expose the largest weapons trafficking operation in military history. She had spent months gathering evidence, photographing documents, and recording conversations. Today was supposed to be her extraction day. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb stood at the front of the room, his decorated uniform gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Sarah had been watching Webb for weeks, noting his expensive watch, his new car, and the way he seemed to know things about classified shipments that he shouldn't. He was the key to everything, the inside man who had been selling weapons to terrorist organizations while hiding behind his sterling military record. Today's exercise will test your ability to identify and neutralize security threats, Webb announced, his voice carrying the authority of 15 years in special operations. We have reason to believe there's a security breach in this facility. Your job is to find the leak and contain it. Sarah's blood turned cold as she realized what was happening. This wasn't a training exercise. Webb had discovered her investigation, and he was using the SEALs to eliminate her. The irony wasn't lost on her that the very men she was trying to protect would be the ones to take her down, thinking they were serving their country. Around her, 301 of the military's most elite warriors began checking their weapons and communication equipment. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were the best of the best, men who had survived the most rigorous training in the world, who had completed missions that would never see the light of day. Each one was a walking weapon, trained to kill efficiently and, without question. Sarah's mind raced through her options. She could try to slip out now, but the exits were already being monitored. She could attempt to contact her handler, but communications were being jammed. Her only choice was to play along and hope she could find a way to expose Webb before he had her eliminated. Staff Sergeant Tony Rodriguez, a compact man with intricate tattoos covering his forearms, noticed Sarah's tension. First time in a live exercise, he asked, mistaking her anxiety for nervousness. Something like that, Sarah replied, forcing a smile. Rodriguez seemed decent, the kind of soldier who genuinely believed he was serving something greater than himself. She hated that Webb was using men like him as pawns in his scheme. The briefing continued with Webb outlining the exercise parameters. The facility would be divided into sectors, with teams responsible for searching each area thoroughly. Sarah realized he was being methodical, ensuring that no matter where she tried to hide, she would be found. He had turned the entire base into a hunting ground, and she was the prey. As the SEALs began forming their teams, Sarah noticed Chief Petty Officer David Kim watching her with suspicious eyes. Kim was Webb's right-hand man, a 20-year veteran who had earned his reputation through unwavering loyalty to his commanders. If Webb had confided in anyone about the real nature of this exercise, it would be Kim. The weight of her situation settled on Sarah's shoulders like a lead blanket. She was one woman against 301 trained killers, and they didn't even know they were being used. Webb had painted her as a traitor, a terrorist, someone who deserved to die for the security of their nation. In their minds, they would be heroes for stopping her. But Sarah had spent 3 years living with the consequences of exposing military corruption. She had watched good soldiers die because of weapons that ended up in the wrong hands, had seen families destroyed by the greed of men like Webb. She couldn't let it continue, even if it meant facing impossible odds. As the teams dispersed throughout the facility, Sarah made her way toward the communications center. If she could access the main server, she might be able to upload her evidence to multiple news outlets simultaneously. It was a desperate plan, but desperation was all she had left. The hallways of the naval base felt different now, transformed from a place of military precision into a maze of potential death traps. Every corner could hide a SEAL team, every shadow might conceal an enemy. Sarah moved with the fluid grace of someone who had spent years in combat zones, her senses heightened to an almost supernatural level. Behind her, she could hear the systematic search beginning. Doors opening and closing, voices calling out status reports, the methodical approach of military professionals doing their job. They were good at what they did, and they were closing in. Sarah reached the communications center and found it guarded by two SEALs she didn't recognize. They were young, probably on their first assignment, eager to prove themselves worthy of the SEAL trident they wore. She couldn't bring herself to harm them, not when they were just following orders. Instead, she triggered the fire alarm for that section of the building. As the two guards rushed to investigate, Sarah slipped inside and began accessing the computer systems. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she uploaded files to secure servers around the world. Insurance policies, in case something happened to her. The upload was at 60% when she heard footsteps in the corridor outside. Heavy boots, moving with purpose. They had found her location. Sarah's heart pounded as she watched the progress bar crawl toward completion. 75%. 80%. The door burst open and Kim entered with a team of 4 SEALs, their weapons drawn but not yet aimed at her. They still believed this was an exercise, that she was just a contractor caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. "Ma'am, we need you to step away from that computer," Kim said professionally. "This is a restricted area during the exercise." Sarah's hand hovered over the enter key as the upload reached 95%. So close. But she could see in Kim's eyes that he was starting to understand this wasn't what it seemed. Webb had probably told him to watch for someone matching her description. "I was just trying to find a way to contact my supervisor," Sarah said, playing the confused civilian. "The alarm went off and I got lost." 98%. 99%. Complete. The evidence was uploaded, scattered across servers in 17 countries. Even if they killed her now, the truth would survive. But, as she looked at the 5 trained killers surrounding her, Sarah realized that staying alive long enough to see justice served was going to be the challenge of her lifetime. Kim stepped closer, his hand moving to his sidearm. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some identification." Sarah knew her cover was blown. The fake ID in her pocket wouldn't stand up to military scrutiny, and Kim's suspicion was growing by the second. She had perhaps 30 seconds before this situation turned deadly. In that moment, Sarah made a decision that would change everything. She wasn't going to run, and she wasn't going to hide. She had spent 3 years in the shadows, letting corrupt officers profit from the blood of good soldiers. Today, that ended. "My name is Sarah Chen Martinez," she said quietly, removing her hands from the keyboard and turning to face them fully. "Staff Sergeant, United States Army, formerly attached to 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta. Officially killed in action 3 years ago in Syria." The SEALs exchanged glances, unsure whether to believe what they were hearing. Dead soldiers didn't just walk into naval bases and use communication equipment. But there was something in Sarah's bearing, in the way she stood and spoke, that suggested she was exactly who she claimed to be. Kim's training kicked in, and his weapon came up to a ready position. "Ma'am, you need to get on your knees with your hands behind your head. Now." Sarah remained standing, her eyes locked on Kim's. "Chief, before you do something you'll regret, you should know that Lieutenant Commander Webb has been selling weapons to terrorist organizations for the past 2 years. The evidence is already uploaded to secure servers. This isn't a training exercise. He's using you to eliminate a witness." The words hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. Sarah could see the doubt creeping into the SEAL's eyes, the confusion of men who had been given conflicting information. They were trained to follow orders without question, but they were also trained to recognize when something didn't feel right. Kim's radio crackled to life with Webb's voice. "All teams, be advised we have located the security threat in the communications center. Terminate with extreme prejudice. This is not a drill. The 5 SEALs looked at each other, then, back at Sarah. The woman standing before them didn't look like a terrorist. She looked like a soldier, someone who had seen combat and survived it. And Webb's order to terminate seemed extreme for what was supposed to be a training exercise. Sarah could see the exact moment when Kim realized something was very wrong. His weapon remained raised, but his finger moved away from the trigger. Command, this is Team 7. Subject appears to be an unarmed civilian contractor. Request clarification on rules of engagement. Team 7, you have your orders. Neutralize the threat immediately. The radio went silent, and Kim slowly lowered his weapon. In 15 years of military service, he had never been ordered to kill an unarmed civilian without due process. It went against everything he believed in, everything the Navy had taught him about honor and justice. "Ma'am," Kim said carefully, "I think we need to have a longer conversation." The communications center fell silent except for the hum of computer servers and the distant sound of alarms. Chief Petty Officer Kim studied Sarah's face, looking for tells that might indicate deception. What he saw instead was the steady gaze of someone who had stared death in the face and lived to tell about it. "Rodriguez, secure the door," Kim ordered quietly. "Matthews, kill the lights and set up a defensive position. If what she's saying is true, we're about to have company." The young SEALs moved with practiced efficiency, transforming the communications center into a defensive position. Sarah watched them work, recognizing the professionalism that had made the Navy SEALs legendary. These were good men caught in an impossible situation. "Talk fast," Kim said, keeping his weapon ready but not aimed at her. "Because in about 3 minutes, Webb is going to realize we haven't confirmed your termination, and then, things are going to get very complicated." Sarah moved to one of the terminals and pulled up her files. 2 years ago, a weapons shipment from this base ended up in the hands of ISIS. 30 American soldiers died when those weapons were used against them in Iraq. The official report blamed a clerical error, but I started digging. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, bringing up documents and photographs. Webb has been using his position to redirect weapons shipments. He's got contacts in the logistics department who help him falsify paperwork. The weapons get sold to arms dealers who then sell them to terrorist organizations. Rodriguez peered over her shoulder at the screen, his face darkening as he processed what he was seeing. "These are classified shipping manifests. How did you get access to these?" "Because I'm not really a contractor," Sarah admitted. "I'm military intelligence. My death was staged 3 years ago after I exposed corruption in the Pentagon. They gave me a new identity and a quiet life, but when my handler told me about suspicious activities here, I volunteered to investigate." Kim's radio buzzed with increasing urgency. "Team 7, report status immediately." "Buy me 2 more minutes," Sarah pleaded. "Let me show you everything." Kim made a decision that went against his training but felt right in his gut. Team 7 to command. Area secure, conducting detailed sweep. Will report in 5. He switched off his radio and nodded to Sarah. "You've got 2 minutes. Make them count." Sarah pulled up video files showing Webb meeting with known arms dealers in Norfolk restaurants. Audio recordings of phone conversations where he discussed shipment schedules and payment methods. Bank records showing deposits that coincided with missing weapons shipments. The evidence was overwhelming. "Jesus Christ," Matthews whispered from his position by the door. "This son of a bitch has been playing us for fools." "There's more," Sarah continued. "The reason he staged this exercise today is because I was supposed to be extracted. My handler is flying in this morning to pull me out and bring all this evidence to the FBI. Webb found out and decided to eliminate me first." She turned to face the 5 SEALs directly. "He's using you because he knows you'll follow orders. He's counting on your loyalty and training to do his dirty work. But what he doesn't understand is that your loyalty is to your country, not to him." Kim's jaw tightened as the implications sank in.
How many weapons are we talking about? Enough to arm a small army.
Rifles, ammunition, explosives, even some anti-aircraft missiles.
The total value is over $50 million, but the cost in American lives. Sarah's voice trailed off. We may never know the full extent of the damage.
The lights in the corridor outside flickered off, and they could hear movement in the hallways.
Webb wasn't waiting for confirmation anymore.
He was mobilizing the entire SEAL team to converge on their location. "We need to move," Kim said grimly.
"If even half of what you're saying is true, we can't let Webb eliminate you." Sarah shook her head.
"There are 296 more SEALs out there who think I'm a terrorist. Even with you 5 helping me, those aren't good odds." "Then, we level the playing field," Rodriguez said with a grim smile.
"Kim, remember that ammunition depot exercise we ran last month? The one where we had to secure multiple objectives simultaneously?" Kim's eyes lit up with understanding. "Divide and conquer.
We can't take on the whole team at once, but we can control the battlefield."
Sarah looked between the two men, seeing a plan forming. "What do you have in mind?"
"This facility has multiple emergency protocols," Kim explained.
"We can trigger lockdowns in different sections, force them to split into smaller groups.
Meanwhile, you get to the main communications array and broadcast your evidence to every military base on the East Coast."
"That's assuming we can get there alive," Matthews pointed out.
"Webb's got the whole place surrounded by now."
"Then, we make some noise," Rodriguez said, checking his ammunition. "Create enough chaos to give Sarah a window." Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in years: hope.
These men didn't know her, had no reason to trust her, but they were willing to risk their careers and their lives because it was the right thing to do. "There's something else you need to know," she said quietly. "When this goes public, there's going to be an investigation. Everyone who's worked with Webb, everyone who's had access to these shipments, they're all going to be scrutinized.
Some good people are going to get caught up in this." Kim nodded grimly. "That's a price we'll have to pay. Better than letting this continue."
The sound of boots in the corridor was getting closer. Sarah could hear voices coordinating search patterns, the professional communication of a military unit conducting operations. In a few minutes, they would reach the communications center.
"Before we do this," Sarah said, "I need you to understand something.
I've been living with the weight of this investigation for 18 months. Every day, knowing that weapons I could have stopped from being sold might be used to kill American soldiers. If we fail today, if Webb eliminates me and covers this up, more good people are going to die." She paused, looking each of the SEALs in the eye.
"I won't blame you if you want to walk away. This isn't your fight, and you didn't sign up for this."
Rodriguez was the first to speak. "Ma'am, with all due respect, the moment that bastard used us to try to murder an innocent person, it became our fight." The others nodded in agreement.
Kim stepped forward and extended his hand. "Staff Sergeant Chen Martinez, it would be an honor to serve with you."
Sarah shook his hand, feeling the calluses of a man who had spent years fighting for his country.
"The honor is mine, Chief."
Their moment of solidarity was interrupted by a voice over the facility's public address system. It was Webb, and he sounded angry.
"Attention all personnel. We have a confirmed terrorist threat in the communications section.
The subject is armed and extremely dangerous.
Shoot on sight."
"This is not a drill."
Sarah winced. "He's escalating. That means he's desperate."
"Good," Kim said grimly.
"Desperate men make mistakes."
He activated his tactical radio and switched to a frequency that would reach all SEAL teams.
"All units, this is Team 7.
Be advised, the subject in the communications center is an undercover federal agent.
Repeat, do not engage.
Command has been compromised." Webb's voice came back immediately, filled with rage.
"Team 7, you are out of line. Stand down immediately and surrender the terrorist." "Negative, Command. We have verified the subject's credentials. Requesting immediate backup for escort to secure location."
The radio exploded with confused chatter as different teams tried to understand what was happening.
Some voices supported Kim's assessment, others demanded clarification from Webb.
The unity of the SEAL operation was fracturing, which was exactly what they needed. Matthews reported from the door.
Movement in the corridor. Looks like Team 3, but they're arguing among themselves.
Sarah quickly gathered her evidence files onto a portable drive.
If something happens to me, make sure this gets to the FBI.
Nothing's going to happen to you, Kim said firmly.
We're all walking out of here alive. Rodriguez had found a building schematic on one of the terminals.
There's a maintenance tunnel that connects to the main communications array.
We can use it to avoid the main corridors. What about the other teams? Sarah asked. They're just following orders.
I don't want anyone getting hurt because of me.
Leave that to us, Kim replied. We know these men.
Once they understand what's really happening, they'll stand down.
Sarah felt a surge of emotion she wasn't prepared for.
These 5 men were willing to risk everything for a person they had met less than an hour ago, simply because it was right. It reminded her why she had joined the military in the first place, why she had been willing to sacrifice everything to serve her country. All right, she said, slinging the laptop bag across her shoulder.
Let's go expose a traitor. Kim nodded to his team. Rodriguez, take point. Matthews and Johnson, rear guard.
Wilson, you're with me and the staff sergeant.
We move fast and we move quiet.
As they prepared to leave the communications center, Sarah caught Kim's arm. Chief, when this is over and the investigation starts, remember that you and your men are heroes.
Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Kim's expression was grim but determined.
Ma'am, the only heroes here are the soldiers who died because of weapons that should never have left this base. We're just doing what we should have done months ago. The team moved out into the corridor, and Sarah found herself surrounded by 5 of the most dangerous men in the world, all committed to protecting her life. As they navigated through the darkened hallways of the naval base, she couldn't help but think that Webb had made one crucial miscalculation. He had assumed that the SEALs would follow orders blindly, without question or conscience. But what he had forgotten was that these men had sworn an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And, sometimes, the most dangerous enemies were the ones who hid behind uniforms and medals while betraying everything those symbols represented. The hunt was far from over, but, for the first time in 18 months, Sarah felt like she might actually survive to see justice served.
The maintenance tunnel beneath Norfolk Naval Base felt like a tomb.
Sarah crawled through the narrow space behind Rodriguez, the metal ductwork echoing with their controlled breathing. Every few feet, Rodriguez would pause to check his GPS coordinates and listen for movement above them. Behind her, she could hear Kim coordinating with the other teams through his radio. His voice was calm and professional, but she could detect the tension underneath. They were walking a tightrope, trying to maintain operational security while preventing their fellow SEALs from unknowingly helping Webb cover up his crimes.
Team 7 to all units, Kim whispered into his microphone. Be advised that Lieutenant Commander Webb may be compromised.
Exercise extreme caution before engaging the subject.
Wait for backup before taking any action.
The response was immediate and confused.
Multiple voices demanded clarification, asked for Webb's location, questioned Kim's authority to issue such an order.
The careful choreography of the military operation was dissolving into chaos, which bought them time but also made everyone more dangerous.
Rodriguez held up his hand, signaling a stop.
Above them, they could hear footsteps and muffled voices. Sarah strained to listen, catching fragments of conversation.
Check every room twice. Orders came directly from command. Doesn't feel right about this whole thing. The last voice sounded familiar.
Sarah recognized it as belonging to Master Chief Peterson, a 30-year veteran who had earned 3 Purple Hearts and the respect of every SEAL on the base.
If Peterson was having doubts about the operation, others would be too.
Rodriguez pointed ahead to where the tunnel connected to the main communications array. The access panel was 50 feet away, but they would be exposed when they climbed out. Kim made quick hand signals, deploying his team to provide cover from multiple angles. Sarah's radio, which she had been given during the briefing, suddenly crackled to life.
All teams, this is command.
Team 7 has been compromised by the terrorist. They are no longer following orders and should be considered hostile.
Neutralize them along with the primary target. The words hit like a physical blow.
Webb wasn't just trying to eliminate her anymore, he was willing to sacrifice 5 Navy SEALs to protect his secret. Men who had served their country with distinction were now marked for death because they had chosen to do the right thing. Kim's face went white with rage. That son of a bitch just declared war on his own men. Matthew's voice came through their tactical frequency.
Chief, we've got movement on multiple levels. Teams are converging on our location.
Sarah felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her. 5 good men were about to die because of her investigation. Their families would be told they died in a training accident, never knowing they were murdered by a corrupt officer trying to cover up his crimes. "I have to surrender," she said quietly.
"This is insane. You can't fight the entire SEAL team."
"Like hell," Rodriguez replied grimly.
"We're not backing down now."
Kim activated his radio to broadcast on all frequencies.
"All units, this is Chief Petty Officer Kim. Lieutenant Commander Webb has been selling weapons to terrorist organizations.
The evidence is documented and has already been transmitted to federal authorities.
The woman you're hunting is an undercover federal agent. Webb is using you to commit murder."
The radio fell silent for several seconds. Then, Master Chief Peterson's voice came through, careful and measured.
"Kim, that's a serious accusation. Do you have proof?"
"Affirmative, Master Chief. Video evidence, audio recordings, financial records. Everything you need to verify Webb's guilt." Webb's voice cut in, filled with fury.
"Peterson, don't listen to him.
Kim has been compromised. The terrorist has somehow convinced him to betray his country.
Follow your orders."
Sarah realized this was her moment. She activated her own radio and spoke directly to the SEALs who were hunting her.
"Master Chief Peterson, my name is Staff Sergeant Sarah Chen Martinez, formerly of Delta Force.
I was officially killed in action 3 years ago during a classified operation in Syria." She paused, knowing that her next words would either save their lives or doom them all.
"Master Chief, do you remember Operation Blackwater? The weapons cache that was supposed to be destroyed but somehow ended up in terrorist hands?
I was the intelligence officer who discovered that weapons from American bases were being sold to the enemy." There was a long silence. Peterson's voice, when it came, was thoughtful. "There were rumors about that operation. Stories about a female Delta Force operative who died exposing corruption in the ranks. Those stories were true, except for the dying part. My death was staged to protect me from the people I was investigating. But, when weapons from this base started showing up in terrorist attacks, I couldn't stay hidden anymore." Sarah could hear movement above them slowing down, voices becoming more cautious. The SEALs were trained to be suspicious, to question orders that didn't feel right. Webb's increasing desperation was making them all uncomfortable. Rodriguez pointed toward the access panel. "We need to move now, while they're distracted." Kim nodded and signaled for the team to advance. They moved with the fluid precision of men who had trained together for years, covering each other's movements as they approached their objective. As Sarah climbed toward the communications array, she could hear Webb trying to regain control of the situation. "All teams, ignore the chatter on the radio. The terrorist is using psychological warfare to confuse you. Follow your original orders." But Master Chief Peterson's voice cut through Webb's commands like a knife. "All units, this is Peterson. Stand down and secure your positions. Do not engage any targets until we sort this out." Sarah's heart soared. Peterson carried enough respect and authority to make the other SEALs pause and think. Webb's plan was falling apart, and he knew it. The communications array was housed in a room filled with sophisticated equipment that could reach military installations around the world. Sarah immediately began setting up her laptop to broadcast her evidence to multiple recipients: the FBI, the Pentagon's Inspector General, Congress, and several trusted journalists. As the files began uploading, Kim received a report from Wilson, who was monitoring the corridors.
"Chief, we've got teams 2 and 5 refusing to advance.
They're demanding to speak with Peterson directly."
"Good," Kim replied. "That means they're thinking instead of just following orders." But their celebration was premature.
Matthew's urgent voice came through their radio.
"Contact. Team 8 is advancing on our position. They're not responding to Peterson's stand-down order."
Sarah looked up from her laptop.
"How many?"
8 men, full tactical gear.
"They'll be here in 2 minutes."
Kim studied the room's layout and made a quick decision. Rodriguez, Johnson, set up a defensive perimeter at the main entrance. Matthews, Wilson, take the secondary corridor. Nobody fires unless fired upon, but protect the staff sergeant at all costs.
Sarah's upload was at 30%.
Too slow. She needed more time, but Team 8 was approaching fast and they seemed committed to following Webb's orders regardless of the growing doubts among the other teams.
"Chief," Sarah said, "there's something I haven't told you. The weapons Webb has been selling aren't just small arms.
3 weeks ago, a shipment of Stinger missiles went missing from this base. If those end up in terrorist hands..."
Kim's face went pale.
Stinger missiles could bring down commercial aircraft, military helicopters, or low-flying planes. In the wrong hands, they were weapons of mass destruction. "How many missiles?" he asked grimly.
12. Enough to shut down air traffic on the entire East Coast. The weight of that revelation settled on the room like a heavy blanket.
This wasn't just about corruption anymore, it was about preventing a potential catastrophe that could kill hundreds of innocent people. Rodriguez's voice came through the radio, tense but controlled.
"They're at the door. Team 8 is demanding entry."
Kim activated his radio and spoke directly to Team 8.
"This is Chief Kim. Stand down and await further orders from Master Chief Peterson."
The response came from Lieutenant Murphy, Team 8's leader.
"Negative, Chief.
Our orders come from command, not from Peterson.
Open the door and surrender the terrorist." Sarah's upload reached 50%.
Halfway there, but still too slow. She could hear Team 8 preparing to breach the door, their movements efficient and professional. "They're good soldiers," Kim said quietly.
"They're just following what they believe are legitimate orders."
Sarah felt tears sting her eyes.
"They're about to die for a lie. Webb is willing to sacrifice as many of you as it takes to protect his secret." Kim's expression hardened with resolve.
"Then, we make sure their sacrifice isn't in vain." He activated the facility's emergency communication system, broadcasting to every radio and intercom on the base.
"All personnel, this is Chief Petty Officer Kim.
I am declaring a security emergency under Article 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Lieutenant Commander Webb has been compromised and is using his authority to commit treason against the United States."
The words echoed through the hallways of the naval base, reaching every SEAL team simultaneously. Kim was invoking one of the military's most serious emergency protocols, essentially declaring a mutiny against Webb's command. Webb's voice came back immediately, filled with panic and rage.
"Kim has committed treason. All teams, arrest him immediately." But the damage was done.
By invoking Article 92, Kim had forced every SEAL to consider whether Webb's orders were lawful. It created enough doubt to make them hesitate, to think about what they were really being asked to do. Peterson's voice came through the chaos, calm and authoritative. "All teams, this is Master Chief Peterson.
Stand down immediately.
I am assuming temporary command of this operation pending a full investigation."
Sarah's upload reached 75%.
Almost there. But Team 8 was still outside the door, and she could hear them preparing breaching charges. Murphy was apparently determined to follow Webb's orders regardless of Peterson's intervention. Kim made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He activated his radio one more time, speaking directly to Murphy.
Lieutenant, I've known you for 3 years. You're a good officer and a better man.
But, if you breach that door, you're going to be helping a traitor cover up crimes that have cost American lives. Murphy's voice, when it came, was filled with uncertainty.
Chief, I have direct orders from command. And I'm giving you new information that those orders are unlawful. Lieutenant, I'm begging you to trust me.
The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Sarah watched her upload progress crawl toward completion while 5 Navy SEALs prepared to risk everything to protect her. The irony wasn't lost on her that the men Webb had hoped would kill her had become her most dedicated protectors. Finally, Murphy's voice came through the radio, quiet but resolute.
Teammates standing down. Requesting immediate conference with Master Chief Peterson. Sarah's upload reached 100% just as the tension in the room finally began to ease.
The evidence was now in the hands of multiple federal agencies and news organizations.
Whatever happened next, Webb's crimes would not remain hidden.
The Norfolk Naval Base had transformed from a precision military operation into a powder keg of confusion and divided loyalties. In the communications array, Sarah Chan Martinez sat back from her laptop, exhausted but victorious. The evidence that had taken her 18 months to gather was now beyond Webb's reach. Master Chief Peterson's voice echoed through the facility's intercom system.
All personnel, report to your team leaders immediately. No one moves without direct authorization from me. Lieutenant Commander Webb is confined to quarters pending investigation.
Sarah listened to the organized chaos outside their secured room. Footsteps in corridors, urgent radio chatter, the sound of a military unit trying to process information that challenged everything they thought they knew about their commanding officer. Kim looked at her with something approaching awe.
Ma'am, what you've done today, it's going to change everything.
It's going to destroy a lot of careers too, Sarah replied quietly.
Good people are going to get caught up in this investigation.
People who never knew what Webb was doing but, who worked with him, trusted him. Rodriguez checked his watch. Your extraction team should be arriving soon.
You think they'll still come? Sarah considered the question.
Her handler had arranged for a discreet pickup at 0900 hours, but that was before the situation had exploded into a facility-wide security emergency. The FBI would need to coordinate with the Navy now, turn what should have been a simple extraction into a complex interagency operation. They'll come, she said with more confidence than she felt.
The evidence is too important to leave to chance.
Matthews reported from his position at the secondary entrance.
Master Chief Peterson is requesting permission to enter.
He's got Murphy with him. Kim exchanged glances with his team. They had committed themselves to protecting Sarah, but Peterson was one of the most respected men on the base.
If he wanted to talk, they would listen.
Let them in, Kim decided. Master Chief Peterson entered the room with the measured steps of a man who had seen 30 years of military service. He was tall and lean, with graying hair and eyes that had witnessed too many wars. Lieutenant Murphy followed behind him, looking shaken and uncertain. Peterson studied Sarah carefully, taking in her military bearing, the confident way she held herself despite being surrounded by elite warriors.
Staff Sergeant Chan Martinez, I presume.
Yes, Master Chief. I served with Delta Force operators in Afghanistan.
You carry yourself like one of them.
Peterson's voice was neutral, neither hostile nor friendly.
Mind if I